Welcome to Sports Insider here on cleveland.com. I'm your host, Chris Fedor. Dan Lobby is actually in Indianapolis, so I'm flying solo, but joining me in studio, Joe Vardon today. We'll talk some Cavs. We will make a trip to Indianapolis, hear from Mary Kay Cabot. Our Browns beat reporter, see what Ray Farmer had to say today as he spoke to the media. Yesterday, of course, it was Mike Pettin, so we'll catch up with her in about 10 minutes. Bud Shaw, of course, for his Thursday spinoffs. And we'll head to Arizona, see what the weather is like in Arizona, as Paul Hoynes will join to talk about Indian spring training. But as I said, Joe Vardon joining me in studio. Thanks for joining me, Joe. Big day here in the NBA.
Big day. We get the unofficial second half started, and more importantly, a little trade deadline to talk about.
Yep. All right. Speaking of the trade deadline, just had one trade go down according to Yahoo Sports. The Portland Trail Blazers have acquired Aaron Aflalo from the Denver Nuggets. When it comes to the Cavs, though, Joe, everybody understands not a lot of trade assets if they want to pull off other deals. Already made 2 trades. What's your gut tell you as the trade deadline gets closer and closer?
Yeah, I've talked to a few league sources over the last couple days, and they had said that the Cavs have made a couple calls, but really their moves have already been made, especially when it comes to trades. You look at, as you mentioned, they brought in Timofey Mozgov, they brought in J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert. They gave away Dion Waiters and some draft picks, along with a couple of guys towards the end of the bench to make this happen, and it's transformed the team. And let's not forget the moves that were made over the summer as well to get the Cavs sort of to where they are now, just in terms of trading away some other pieces to get pieces. So I don't see them making any more trades today, and I'm not sure that I did. There is still an opportunity for some to bring in someone via free agency here. They've got about a week to do that. They've got to do it by March 1st to be eligible for the player to be eligible for the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
When the Cavs explore that route, they're going to be looking for a veteran that might get bought out, maybe somebody who's looking to play in the playoffs. Do you sense that they're looking for a new point guard, somebody to back up Kyrie Irving, be an upgrade over Matthew Dellavedova, or do you get the sense that they would like another big guy, more depth along the front line?
I think that if you had to order it, I think you'd go big guy first, and I think all you have to do is look back to the last time the Cavs played in a game. It was last Thursday in Chicago. Kevin Love couldn't play because of the eye problem, and Timofey was in early foul trouble, and they were exposed. So if you could do it, you would want to bring in one more big guy who would be comfortable with not playing a lot, but in a pinch could get in there and give you some valuable minutes. I'm not sure who like that is out there, but they're still looking for one.
Well, one name that a lot of people were keeping an eye on, Kevin Garnett. According to the latest reports, Brooklyn, Minnesota, discussing a possible trade. Kevin Garnett has a full no-trade clause, so it's his decision if he wants to go to Minnesota. Right now, Brooklyn is a playoff team, and the other thing, according to Yahoo Sports, Joe, is that Garnett has already said that he's not going to accept a buyout. So that's somebody who's probably not going to be on the market for the Cavs. If you have any questions, any comments, go to the comments section at the bottom of the post. You can send those in, as it's Sports Insider here on cleveland.com. Joe, when it comes to the Cavs, you mentioned the game against Chicago, the final game before the All-Star break. How do you feel like the Cavs view that game? Do you think they look at it saying, yeah, maybe we do need to take another step to improve this roster? Or do you think they look at it, what you said, Kevin Love wasn't there, Mozgov was in foul trouble, that's just an aberration, we still feel good about what we accomplished in the final 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think they really do feel good about where they were going all the way up through the All-Star break, and that includes that night in Chicago. They view it more as an aberration. It was a bad night. LeBron scored 31, but he didn't play very well. He was throwing the ball all over the place. And it was, it was time for everybody to go home for a little bit. David Blatt was on his way to Israel. Kevin Love was on his way somewhere warm. LeBron and Kyrie had places to be in New York. It was just, it was not a good time for them to play one more game. I think, if anything, they're a little bit more troubled by the loss before that in Indianapolis. They feel privately like players kind of took that one a little bit lightly, didn't give the Pacers credit they deserved, and they lost in the fourth quarter when they shouldn't have.
I get the sense that you feel pretty good about this team, given what they accomplished going into the All-Star break. If you still have a question or a few questions moving forward with this team, what are they?
Well, let's see if they stick to their defensive principles when they're playing the Hawks in Atlanta, when they play the Wizards on Friday night in Washington, when they play in Toronto. What I'm getting at is they are about to get a brutal couple weeks in terms of schedule. And we've seen tremendous growth out of this team. When LeBron is feeling okay and his mind is right, he's still the best player in the league. And they're a better team because of the trades they made. So you throw all that in together, the Cavs are really good. Let's see how good when they're playing some of these upper echelon teams.
Joe, LeBron has missed 10 games already this year. Been a knee, back, wrist. How concerning is that for the Cavs in the second half?
It is. It's concerning because they see how good he is when he's given a little bit of rest. And they want to do it again. And it all comes back to this schedule. I mean, can the Cavs be good enough, especially over the next couple weeks, to win enough games, to get in a position to where, even though they go to Texas twice and they fly to Florida, they can rest LeBron here and there. I mean, that is something they absolutely want to do, but they have to be in a good enough spot in the Eastern Conference to pull that off.
They're in the 5 spot right now. They're trailing, of course, Atlanta, the team in the NBA with the most wins. Then it's Toronto. Then it's Chicago. Then it's Washington. If the Cavs beat Washington on Friday night, that means the Cavs move up to the number 4 spot. How important is seeding for this team?
Well, that's a great question, Chris. It's, on the one hand, it is important just because they are so good at home, and you always want that extra game at home. But, is it worth taxing LeBron and maybe a couple of your other guys? I'm not so sure, because this team is good enough, certainly good enough. If they ended up in a 5 or a 6 hole, which I don't expect, they're good enough to pull the upset. They can win that extra road game is the point.
Now, the second half, it means a new experience for Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, Tristan Thompson. LeBron talked about it yesterday at practice. Kyrie talked about it yesterday at practice. How do you expect those two guys, 2 of the 3 big 3, to handle the final 27 games of the regular season?
Well, I was actually going to go a little bit different route and say I expect Kevin Love to look better, especially as we move towards the playoffs. Maybe not Friday night, maybe not the next day, Sunday, but really soon you're going to start to see Kevin really hit his stride. And I hang that on. A couple months ago, Hubie Brown talked at length about this, and that is when he expects Kevin Love, or a player like Kevin Love, to find his rhythm on a team with 3 stars, and 2 of them are ball dominant. So I'm going to side with him, and I'm going to say you're going to see something from Kevin real soon.
All right, I'm going to ask you the question that I asked Bud Shaw yesterday and Chris Haynes yesterday when we did Cavs Insider. The team that you think is the biggest threat to the Cavs in the Eastern Conference?
In the Eastern Conference, I still think it's the Bulls.
Nobody's saying Atlanta.
No, I just because I think both of the, we've seen those teams go head-to-head with their players healthy, and they've played 3 times, and it seems, I understand that the Hawks move the ball so well, but I still think the Cavs can hang in there. The Bulls have barely played together when they're all healthy, and when they are all healthy, they are really good.
And Derrick Rose looked really good in the final game before the break.
He sure did, and Thibodeau's he's a good coach, so we'll see.
All right, Joe. Appreciate you joining me today in studio, man.
All right. Happy to be here.
All right. Joe's off to Cavs practice. Continue to check out all of our Cavs coverage, cleveland.com/Cavs. We also have a running blog going right now to keep you all updated on what's going on in the NBA. Trade deadline 3 o'clock, so continue to check that out, cleveland.com/Cavs. Still to come, we will chat with Bud Shaw, his spinoffs, of course, Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat reporter, and Mary Kay Cabot coming from Indianapolis. And speaking of Indy, scouting combine going on today. Ray Farmer spoke today. First time Ray Farmer has spoken since Textgate, and this is how Ray Farmer started his press conference in Indianapolis.
First, I'll start off by saying that, first and foremost, I would like to first extend an apology to the Cleveland Brown fans. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of inquiry about texting or Textgate or whatever the new term is. But so that everybody hears it from my mouth, it was me. To that degree, I have apologized to the people in the building, Coach Pettin, Jimmy Haslam, the rest of the football staff, and everybody that was involved. From our side, as far as football-wise, that they understand what happened. To that degree, it is an open investigation from the league's perspective, so there's not a lot of commentaries there. But I will tell you that, again, I take full responsibility for myself and my actions. And the things that I've learned from that is that there is a platform to have those conversations and have those things talked about and discussed. I misplayed that platform, something I've learned from, something I'll be better at, and I've corrected that mistake. So before we continue, that's what I'd really like to say is that, one, I apologize to Jimmy Haslam, our fans, and the football staff. So with that being said, I'll open up to any questions you guys may have.
So there he is, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, Ray Farmer, speaking one day after head coach Mike Pettine spoke. In Indianapolis, scouting combine is going on, but Shaw now joining me, as now we're going to go to Indy, and standing by our outstanding Browns beat reporter, Mary Kay Cabot. What's going on, Mary Kay?
Hey guys, yeah, you know what? We just had the line session with Ray Farmer at the podium. Then we got him off the side for a little while, and he was very, very apologetic. He learned from his mistakes in this situation. Of course, they could prove to be pretty costly with whatever comes down regarding the punishment. But he definitely is sorry and remorseful for what happened, and we'll see where everyone goes from here.
Mary Kay, any indication still of what the content was of those text messages?
You know what? I don't know exactly what was in the text messages, but I do know that they were mostly opinions. I think he was exasperated by things that were going on during the games, and I think it was more so things like hey, why are we doing this, and how come we're not doing that? And I don't know the exact nature, but that was basically the gist.
Mary Kay, for Ray Farmer to come out and say that he was the one that sent those text messages, does that mean now that the NFL is going to act, or is there still some kind of investigation going into this to determine if there is going to be a suspension, a fine, a draft pick? What's the next step for the NFL here?
The next step is, they're going to hand down the punishment, and so I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen. I thought it would have happened by now, to be honest with you. So I would think maybe they wanted to get through the combine first, and they'll get back at it next week. So I would expect that something will come down fairly soon. Now, it was my understanding early on in the process that it would be a multi-game suspension, that it would be something of a mid-round pick, and then a fine. But sometimes these things get discussed, talked about, negotiated. I'm sure that there are some conversations that have gone on between the Browns, and I'm sure Jimmy has them about trying to see what's the best course of action.
Do you think if the NFL believes it wasn't done for a competitive advantage that it would affect the ultimate penalty, or is it just for texting down to the sidelines you still get you get what you get, no matter what the content is?
No, I think that would be a mitigating factor if there was nothing in the text that would have given the Browns an easier chance to win the football game. I think it was just him, expressing his opinions on things. I do think that matters to a degree. However, there is a lot of stuff going on right now with integrity of the game, with Noisegate, with Deflategate, and all of that. So, they do have to send a message here. I mean, they can't, just kind of give them a slap on the wrist and let it go. So I think they're going to have to make a statement. But I do think that if they had determined that he was doing something to help them win the football game, then that would have been worse.
Mary Kay, Ray Farmer has mastered the art of not revealing any information when it comes to his draft plans, free agency plans. But I want to see if you had the same takeaway I did. For the first time since Ray Farmer has become GM, Mary Kay, I felt like after what he said today about the wide receivers in particular, there is a chance that he uses a first-round pick on a wideout. Am I off on that?
No, you know what? I think anything that you hear at this time of year, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they wouldn't have used one last year. I think there was some thought to taking Sammy Watkins with the number 4 pick. So, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think that he'll try to stay true to his board. But anything that you hear at this time of year, some of it is designed to throw you off. So, I've learned over the years that you can't really put too much stock into what you're hearing right now.
Mary Kay, when it comes to the quarterback position, obviously that's another big topic of conversation. Jameis Winston got measured today. Marcus Mariota got measured today. Ray Farmer says that the Browns do indeed have a plan at quarterback. Do you believe that they have a plan at quarterback?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I mean, it's kind of getting late in the process, really not to have one at this point. So I'm sure they do have a plan, and I don't know, if that plan involves trying to trade up for Marcus Mariota. I don't really know yet if that's what part of it is or not. I just did talk to George Whitfield today, and, he thinks, that is a very real possibility that the Browns could try to package those picks and maybe make a pitch for a Mariota. And, he views that as a very intriguing thing to have Mariota and Johnny Manziel in Cleveland, two big-name guys like that, and let them see how that all plays out. So yeah, you know what? I do think that it's being discussed, and we'll just have to see.
I think the fact that George was selling Johnny at this time last year makes everyone a little skeptical of him selling Marcus Mariota.
Well,
agree?
you know what? He still believes in Johnny. He still 100% believes that Johnny can be a successful NFL quarterback, and he hasn't lost one bit of faith in him. And he knows quarterbacks. So I don't know. I mean, I think that his words do carry some weight just because he is such a good, respected quarterback guru in the league. So, it'll be interesting to see over the next few years how that all does play out.
All right, Mary Kay, hopefully one of these times the Browns could start a press conference without "I'm sorry."
Oh, gosh. What a few months it's been.
All right, Mary Kay, thanks so much for joining us from Indianapolis with the latest at the Scouting Combine. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
There we go. The latest from Indy, bud.
I guess what I was trying to say is that I would put a lot more stock in George Whitfield if he was talking about quarterbacks that he wasn't working with.
Yes, that's true.
That's all. I'm sure. It's like listening to Mike Mayock say he still believes in Johnny. Well, he's protecting his own opinion since he was so high on him last year. So.
All right, let me ask you this question because there are some rumors floating that the Browns could have an interest in Mariota. Mary Kay has written about the Browns having an interest in Mariota and how much Ray Farmer likes him. The New York Jets are on the clock. This is draft day. It's pick number 6. Mariota is still on the board. Would you trade 12 and 19 to move up to 6 for him?
If I felt strongly about a quarterback, I would do it. I don't feel strongly about him just because of the transition, again, that we saw with – he has better skills, he's bigger, probably faster even. I like some things about him, but I don't think he's Andrew Luck, and I wouldn't give up those picks unless I thought I was getting something close.
Switching from the Browns to the Indians, joining us from sunny Arizona, I'm guessing, our Indians beat reporter Paul Hoynes. What's going on, Hoynesy?
What's up, guys? How you doing today?
Are you laughing at us or with us? It's 0 here today.
It's not 14 below here.
Yeah.
You got to be loving that, Hoynesy. Did you bring your sunscreen?
It's a little cloudy today, so I'm just wearing sunglasses today.
All right, so where are we with the Cleveland Indians? What's going on there in Arizona right now, Hoynesy?
Today's really the second day of camp. Pitchers and catchers are going through physicals. Tomorrow's the first official workout. Position players report this weekend, and I think the first official full squad workout is Tuesday. But almost everybody's here. I mean, they've got a full, the locker room is packed, and it's almost like, a regular day of spring training practice here.
Paul, how long has Swisher been there? And can you, other than seeing that he's lost a little bit of weight, can you tell anything else about him?
I watched Swisher hit yesterday in the cage. Looked very good from the left side, not so good from the right side. But he's been cleared. We just got an update on all the injured players. He's been cleared to throw and hit, no restrictions. They think he's going to be able to play by mid-March in games. He's still on a kind of a restricted running program. but he's making progress, and he's been here for at least, a week to 10 days.
Hoynes, what's their plan for Swisher?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think they really know. It all depends how much he can stay on the field. Ideally, I think they'd like to play him at first base a little, maybe in right field and DH. But right now, I think his probably primary position is DH.
Do you think they're realistic, though, about expectations for him? Because a couple of years ago, they signed him to that big contract, and they thought he was going to be a big-time player moving forward. Do you think after this injury, with his age, with what they've seen since he's come here to Cleveland, that they're realistic that maybe they're never going to get out of him the contract that they wanted?
Yeah, I think that's probably they're coming to that realization. He's halfway through it now. He can still, it's a vesting option for a fifth year if he gets a certain amount of plate appearances in 2016 and passes a physical at the end of that year. I think they would just take him being healthy for 120 to 130 games and just, rolling him out there and see and just take what he can give them in that regard.
Paul, have you seen Brandon Moss, and what's the timetable on him? Are there any restrictions for spring training, or what are his restrictions?
Yeah, he's still hitting. He's controlled hitting. He's just hitting off a tee, soft toss. That's the big thing for him. He's increasing his sprint work. He should be. They think he'll be game ready by mid-March as well. He's coming off the hip surgery with the torn labrum. He's a left-handed hitter. It's the right hip, so that's the hip he kind of pivots on and generates his power from. So they knew when they made the deal that hitting would be the last thing he would be able to do. I mean, just kind of not swinging the bat, but in game conditions, putting some pop on the bat.
Has there been a Bruce Chen sighting, and what did you make of that acquisition?
Yeah, we did. We talked to Bruce Chen yesterday. Very nice guy, but I have no idea what he's doing here. I can only assume that he couldn't get a job anywhere else. Because what is he doing here? I mean, you've got a stacked rotation. You've got 4 or 5 guys competing for the 5th spot, and you've got a bullpen that is one of the best bullpens in the league. And I know they kind of bring in. Every team brings in a safety net. Maybe this is last spring's Aaron Harang, and Aaron Harang did all right for himself. He had a sciatic nerve problem last year in his back that really, took him out of the picture with Kansas City. But he's pitching rare ball in Panama, and he seems to be okay. So we'll see. But I just don't see where he fits here.
And that's where I was going next with you, Hoynes, because it's not just Chen. You had a report that the Indians were taking a look at Barry Zito. Now, nothing happened with that, but does that tell you that maybe they're not completely comfortable with their starting rotation, or is this just something that the Indians do and other teams around Major League Baseball do, just try and throw darts at the wall?
I think you do your due diligence. Everyone checks out with this. If there's a kind of, they did the same thing with Matt Albers. If a pitcher that's had physical problems is having a tryout session, if he's if it's almost every team always shows up. At least they send a scout just to cover all their bases. But I think there is some nagging doubt that they need another arm in the bullpen, or maybe another starter, a depth guy. But Chin has an out in his contract at the end of spring training, so it's not like he'd have to go down. He'd agree to go to Columbus. Maybe he would, if he has no other options. But that's a tough sell, I think, to a 37-year-old veteran. But the thing is, they had to do a hard sell just to get guys like Swarzak and Scott Downs in here, simply because they have so many relievers and young relievers. So, it just you kind of scratch your head and wonder what he's doing here. But you never know. I mean, a guy could go out and throw one pitch and blow his arm out tomorrow. So, I guess you always you'd rather have rather have numbers than be out looking for a guy.
Question here in the comment section for you, Hoynesy. What upper-level prospects are in camp right now with the Indians?
Most of the guys on the 40-man, Lindor just showed up today. Eric Gonzalez is here. So all the guys on the 40-man are here. I'm trying to think. Tyler Nakin's here. The center fielder. He had suffered a broken hand last year. His fingers. I mean, it looks okay. He didn't have a whole lot of success in winter ball, but he says he feels much better now. He can grip the bat. So yeah, maybe all the guys that are here. It's kind of I don't think it's a prospect kind of camp. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are going to make this club that a lot of young guys. I think most of the roster spots are set.
Hoynesy, the other question that I had for you, I was talking to Terry Pluto about this earlier this week during his podcast. It seems weird to think that there's another team besides Detroit for the Indians to be worried about in the Central, but obviously Kansas City is a team that went to the World Series last year. So when it comes to the Indians and this division in general, should fans be more concerned with the Tigers or with the Kansas City Royals?
Well, I think, the Tigers have routinely beaten them for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, and embarrassingly so. They've always had a pretty, tight, they won the season series against the Royals last year, so they're always real competitive with the Royals. But I still think it's the Tigers. I still think, the door to, you've got to beat them. They've won the division 4 straight times. But Kansas City is interesting. I mean, they lose Shields. They lose Billy Butler. You bring Kendrys Morales in there. That's kind of an iffy sign. You bring Alex Rios in. He had a terrible season in Texas last year. Edison Volquez is going to, I guess, replace Shields in the rotation. So, they made a bunch of moves, but I don't think they're as good a team as they were last year without Shields and, Aoki and Butler. It's a different club, but, they have that core of great young players. They're going to play defense, and their rotation has come around a little bit. So, I think it's going to be a real competitive division. There's no getting around it.
Hoynesy, speaking of defense, obviously that was a huge issue for the Indians last year. Question here in the comments section, is there reason to believe that the defense is going to be improved from what it was last year?
Well, you can look at it 2 ways. It's the usual cast of suspects are all back. So in that regard, no, it's not going to get any better. Or you can look at it. Carlos Santana's going to open the season at first base. He's not going to be the opening day third baseman / backup catcher. Ronnie Chisenhall is going to be playing third base from day one. He's not going to be on a bench guy coming off the bench, for the first month of the season. You're going to have Jose Ramirez at shortstop from the opening day, and not kind of Asdrubal Cabrera, definitely a range challenge guy. Hopefully you have a healthy Michael Bourne in center field. So I think, in that regard, it should, I think just the confidence these guys have, that should be a little better. I mean, that could lead you to believe that it's going to be a little better defense.
All right, Hoynesy, good stuff. Appreciate you joining today, bud.
Thanks for having me, guys. Stay warm.
Enjoy that weather. So jealous. There he is, Paul Hoynes, Indians beat reporter, one half of our Indians reporting team here for cleveland.com. You excited about the Indians?
I'm excited. I think I'm going to pick them to win the division.
Wow.
And I haven't been wrong since the last prediction I made.
Okay.
So.
I haven't been wrong
that
since
for what
the
it's worth.
70-win thing. Other than that, I've been nails. All right, it's time for my favorite time of the week. I look forward to this every single Thursday at the end of every Sports Insider.
Thank God we don't have a lie detector on you right now.
It is time for your spin-offs,
Well, thanks,
bud.
Chris. The Cavaliers are coming out off the All-Star break looking like the confetti-worthy team that we thought they could be. In baseball, the Indians are getting a top 5 power ranking from a couple of national publications. So what are we going to talk about today? The Browns, of course. You had a lot to say about the plans to unveil a new logo, and some of you had ideas of your own. Can we look at one of those? I didn't say they were good ideas. This one is the logo version of the nesting doll. The helmet on the helmet on the helmet. The possibilities are endlessly boring. Our second submission is a short one. It says, Browns logos losing me as a fan. Okay, let me get this straight. You didn't draw the line at the procession of quarterbacks that dwarfs the Macy's parade. You didn't draw the line at the losing seasons, or Mike Holmgren's lectures, or TechScape. Now this? You're like the wife who knows her husband is cheating on her, but threatens divorce only if he doesn't start picking up his socks. Our next one is another idea for a logo. That pretty much says nothing and says it all at the same time. This one could be appropriate if the Browns turn the offense over to Johnny Manziel again and he still needs offensive linemen helping him call plays coming out of the huddle, allegedly. And finally, our last submission comes from a guy who is trying to make one last attempt, last and best hopefully, at enjoying life as a fan of Cleveland sports. And it reads, I hope they legalize marijuana in Ohio. Look, I'm not advocating across-the-board legalization, but I'm not opposed to baby steps. If we start out legalizing marijuana, say, on football Sundays between 1 and 4, I think the legislation has a chance of passing as medicinal. Chris?
All right, going back to the logo thing, bud.
Which you and I have discussed already.
I am starting to get the sense that it's not going to be a big deal at all. It's going to be something so small.
I agree. I'm pretty tickled actually by people getting upset about them changing something that really has been, what has it been exactly? Yeah. What has it represented for the last 25 years? Right. I mean, I could see if this were the Packers changing something and no offense, I know the Browns were good at some point. But as you and I talked about, if you go to the elf or you go to the dog, it just reminds you of what you're missing or what Browns football hasn't been for all these years. So I think it'll be something with colors. I think it'll be something kind of new and what marketing people consider exciting. And I think if these guys go 7-4 again to start the season next year, nobody will even be talking about it. 4-7, however, I wouldn't advise.
I'm thinking no elf. I'm thinking no dog. Remember when we showed the other day just how the helmet has gone from orange helmet, white face mask,
radical,
to orange helmet, gray face mask?
Yes.
I'm feeling, Bud, it's going to go orange helmet, brown face mask this time.
That very well may be true.
With maybe script browns underneath it or something.
I've seen a couple of ideas with the dog on the helmet. I want to say this again.
Yeah.
Haslam, I think was even in the deal, wasn't it, when Lerner sold the team? They cannot put a logo on the helmet. That is not going to change.
Right.
So rest assured it's not going to be anything major, but I'm sure people will pretend to be up in arms Tuesday when they see whatever it is, especially if it's that.
I don't think it's going to be that. Judging by Ray Farmer's comments today and Mike Pettin's yesterday in Indy, I don't think it's going to be that last one that we just showed. All right, that's it. We're out of time here on Sports Insider. Thanks to Paul Hoynes for joining today. Of course, Joe Vardon, one of our Cavs beat reporters, and Mary Kay Cabot doing a fine job in Indianapolis. Continue to check out all of our coverage from Indy, cleveland.com. And thanks to you for joining me in studio.
It's
Appreciate
fun,
that, Bud.
as always.
We'll talk to you next Thursday here on cleveland.com. Later.